Welcome to the fourth video in this review of basic Greek morphology based on 12 core patterns. In this video we continue our overview of the third declension. We'll look now at 3 more patterns that have stems ending in consonants. Our core pattern is still the indefinite pronoun tis and t, so there's no new endings. We'll just see the endings with some new modifications. In this pattern we're using the neuter endings, as you see there on the right. And many people learn this pattern as ma, matas, mati, and so forth as a completely new pattern, but it's simply the basic set of endings from our core pattern for the neuters. In the dative plural we have the tau dropping out before the sigma, just like we saw back in pattern 1, and now we need to add a new detail about dentals, that they can't end a word. And so that fact makes sense out of the nominative and accusative singular forms. We might expect the nominative to be pneumat, but tau can't end a word. So, since there's a zero form on that form, we end up with pneuma, and the same in the accusative singular. Let's take a look at one of these words in a passage. You see the distinctive mu alpha that tips us off as to which pattern we're working with here. And the alpha ending and the article show us that this is a nominative or accusative plural. And so we take off the ending, the alpha, and then drop the tau, and we expect the lemma to be stigma. And we rejoice greatly because in fact that's what it is. Moving on to pattern 3, we're now back to masculine and feminine endings, and now we have stems ending in a rho or a nu. So again, compare the endings there on the right with how they look on the word itself, and you'll see there's no modification of the endings. The nominative's using a zero form option in this particular pattern. Now the modifications take place within the stem. In this particular word we have a long eta in some places, a short epsilon in others, and some places that vowel drops out altogether. In other words that follow this particular pattern, there's a shift between a long and a short, but there's always a vowel there. And in some words there's no shift of vowel at all. It stays the same all the way through. These changes to the stem don't affect the endings, and so the parsing's not a problem. And even that unusual change in the dative plural, you can still see the sen ending clearly. Here's a word that uses the nu for its stem ending, and you see it's exactly the same features we were just looking at with the words that use a rho for their stem ending. So while these stem changes don't affect recognizing the case and number and gender, it could cause difficulty when looking up a word in a lexicon. So if there's a short vowel in the stem, then expect it to lengthen in the lexical form. And if the vowel is dropped out altogether, then expect those words that have a stem ending in rho to end with either eta rho or omega rho, and those with a stem ending in nu to end with either eta nu or omega nu in the lexical form or lemma. So in this word we see an iota ending signaling a dative singular of the third declension, and we look at the stem and see that it's a rho ending and that there's no vowel before it. So we expect the lemma to be either gaster or gastor. And going to the lexicon we find that the winner is gaster. Now in this case there's an epsilon before the rho, so we expect that to lengthen and the lemma to end in an eta rho, and in fact it does. Now we come to stems ending in a nu tau, and you see that these are going to be masculines, and all the endings are clear. The nominative singular is using a zero form, so the tau drops out and the vowel lengthens before it. And the dative plural is often requires some attention. The sigma on the dative plural ending sin causes both the nu and the tau to drop out, and the omicron to lengthen to compensate. Now the lengthening is to an omicron upsilon instead of that omega we saw in the nominative singular. So losing the nu might make it harder to locate such words in a lexicon. But perhaps the main difficulty is that the dative plural looks like a verb in the third person plural active. And in fact, it also looks like a dative plural out of a participle. So the sin ending is clearly seen, but its significance isn't necessarily clear. Now indeed, this whole paradigm is simply the present active participle masculine of the verb arco that's become established as a noun. So let's see how this works when we come to one of these forms in a text. This form is clearly a dative singular, as the article and the ending both indicate, and it has a new tau stem, so we wonder whether this is a participle from the verb draco, or is it a third declension noun from dracon? Well, checking the lexicon, we find the winner is dracon, the noun, and there is no verb draco. Even in LSJ, Liddell, Scott, and Jones, the large lexicon, there's no verb draco. There are only 7 nouns used in the New Testament that follow pattern 4, but this pattern occurs very frequently since it's part of both the present and second aorist participle paradigms that we'll look at later. So it's very important even though only a few nouns use it. So here's a summary of what we've seen in the third declension thus far. We've seen stems ending in a consonant, 4 different types of them. The square of stops with its several different sorts of endings, the labials, the velars, and the dentals. And then pattern 2, the mot words. And then 3 with a rho or a nu on the stem ending. And then 4 with the new tau. Pattern 2, the mot words, are similar to the dentals in pattern 1 because there's a dental at the end there that drops out when there's a 0 form. And then pattern 4 combines features of the dental in pattern 1 and the nu in pattern 3. So you drop the tau off like you do in the dentals in pattern 1, and then the nu ending works somewhat like the pattern 3. In the next video, we'll take a look at 2 final patterns in the third declension, and both of these will have stems ending in vowels.